All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Victoria Planning Commission meeting for October the 18th, 2023. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Celeste, would you please call the roll?
David Brown,
Present.
Dr. Derek Hunt,
Present.
Victor Mendoza,
Here.
Dan Minkalinka,
Here.
Pardis Mohibitash, Brian Olguin,
Here.
Monica Rodriguez,
Here.
Rebecca Spears, Cynthia Staley.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Celeste. All right, tonight's meeting again is being simulcast via TV 15, so just want to let everybody know that. And we'll go ahead and start the citizen communication. Do we have any citizens in the audience wishing to speak only to items not listed for a public hearing? And if you wish to speak on the item not listed on the public hearing, please come forward at this time and limit yourself to 3 minutes. Okay. I'll go ahead and close I don't see anybody wishing to come up, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll go ahead and start development items with public hearings, and our first item is a variance request for the Sandoval subdivision. Staff, could you please give your report?
Good afternoon, Commission. So we want to begin with the variance for the Sandoval subdivision. The owner is Antonio Sandoval, and the agent is CivilCorp.
Excuse me, could you, not hearing you really good. Could you,
sorry.
if you could,
Can you hear me now? Hello?
okay, that's good.
Sorry.
We could,
Yeah, thank you.
So the variance is for approval of a final plat with the variance to section 2182A, which is for minimum lot size, and section 2182A2, minimum lot width. The subject property is located at 1210 and 1212 Julius Street and is legally described as being a 0.215 acre tract situated in Farm Lot 1, Block 2, Range 7, east above town in original 4-league grant of the town of Victoria. The property owner would like to redevelop their property with new single-family residential structures. The reconstruction or placement of a new residential structure requires a plat of the subject property in order for a building permit to be issued. The owner is requesting variances to section 2182A 1 and 2 in order to plat the property into two single-family residence lots, with lots being below the minimum required lot size and having lot widths below the minimum required lot widths for single-family residential lots. Section 2182A1 of code requires single-family residential lots to have a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. Lots 1 and 2 will each have an approximate total size of 4,454 square feet. Section 2182A2 requires single-family residential lots to have a minimum lot width of 50 feet. Lots 1 and 2 will each have an approximate lot width of 45 feet. Lots 1 and 2 will be able to adhere to all other development guidelines required for single-family residential lots, despite being below the minimum total lot size and having lot widths below the minimum lot width requirement. The lots will meet all yard setback requirements. The final plat will meet all applicable ordinances with approval of variances. Staff recommends the approval of the variance request to all the platting of the two single-family residential lots, which were previously developed with single-family residential structures on them. The variance will allow both lots to have lot sizes below minimum lot total size requirement and lot widths below the minimum lot width requirements, while meeting all other single-family residential lot requirements set out in the city code. The approval of the variance will not significantly change the existing character of the neighborhood and will not be a detriment to surrounding lots. Furthermore, allowing the construction or placement of new residential structures to be erected in 1210 and 1212 Julius Street will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding neighborhood.
is it, any questions from? I'll go, if that's all, I'd like to go ahead and open it up for a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Okay, I see no one. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any further discussion on from the commissioners?
just like to see when we're doing the development there. So I'm glad to see development happening on that end. I also noticed that we have to add the fees back to the application, to do new fees to it, but other than that, I think it's outstanding.
All right.
Can I just ask what kind of structures are going to be on the property?
It's platted for residential, so it could be a manufactured home or a stick-built home that meets the residential building code, as long as it adheres to all the setbacks.
Okay.
For manufactured homes, we do require, our separate elsewhere in our code does require that they have to be owner occupied, which means the title of the home and the
Right.
deed to the property both have to be in the same person's name.
And there'll be the same 20-foot,
Yes, the setbacks
Okay.
would still have to be adhered
and I'm
to.
talking about the driveway.
Yes.
Okay.
All other development standards have to be
Okay,
adhered to,
thank you.
no matter what type of structure it is.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and ask for any motions or actions.
Motion to approve?
I have a motion on the table to approve this variance
Second.
by Mr. Mendoza and a
No,
second by Mr. Brown. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
he
All
was
those
act-
opposed?
He was actually the motion, and he was the second.
Oh, no.
It was
you was the-
Mendoza.
Okay.
The original motion came from Mr. Mendoza, and the second came from Mr. Brown. And the motion did pass. All right, we'll go ahead and, on our second item is a variance request for the City of Victoria Public Safety Headquarters. Mr. Ward?
Good evening, Commissioners. Our second item on the agenda tonight is a variance request for the City of Victoria Public Safety Headquarters. The City of Victoria is the owner, and RMA Architects, in the care of Patrick Ohrt, is the agent. The subject property is located at 2501 North Main Street and being legally described as Block 2, Range 2, east above town, Farm Lot 2, Tract 1. The subject property is approximately a 14.50 acre tract of land. The owner wishes to place 2 monument signs on the same street frontage. The owner is requesting a variance in order to allow for the approval of a sign permit to erect an additional freestanding monument sign on the property. Now, Section 5-149A1A1 states that only one freestanding sign shall be allowed on each lot which fronts only one public street. For lots fronting on more than one public street, one sign shall be allowed for each street, with each sign to be oriented toward a different street or street corner. The subject property does have two public right-of-ways, having frontage along both North Vine Street and North Main Street. But all access to the property is being proposed to come off only North Main Street. So due to no access being proposed off North Vine Street, signage along North Vine Street is not needed and would not be beneficial for the development. We also wanted to add that Section 149A1A7 allows lots in excess of 1,000 linear feet of public street frontage to have one additional freestanding sign. The subject property has approximately 973 linear feet of contiguous public street frontage along North Main, meaning the property is 27 linear feet short of being allowed an additional freestanding sign along North Main Street. Staff recommends approval of the variance request to allow for the approval of the sign permit for an additional on-premises sign along North Main Street. Now, the owner has stated that if the additional proposed signage is approved, the cumulative area of both signs will still be below the maximum cumulative area allowed for one sign by the ordinance, which is 500 square feet. The variance request is only to allow the additional freestanding sign and not to increase the allowable sign area. Staff recommends approval of the variance subject to the condition that the property will only have the 2 freestanding monument signs along North Main Street with no additional signage to be added to North Vine Street. And the total cumulative signage area of both signs will be below the allowable maximum cumulative area for a sign. The proposed use of the site as the future public safety headquarters building warrants the 2 signs, each located near a proposed driveway to guide traffic. The variance would be in the public benefit in highlighting access to the new building with the strategic location of the signs near the driveways. Overall, the signage is less than the total allowable signage if configured on both Vine and Main Streets rather than just concentrated on North Main Street. So for these reasons, staff recommends approval of the variance requests. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I'll go ahead and open up to a public hearing. If anybody wishes to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. please state your name and address, and please limit yourself to 3 minutes.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Hi, I'm Brecca Teakin. I'm the general manager for the Pet Resort on Main, which will be right across. Also general manager of Main Street Animal Hospital. So I would just like to know where the driveways are located at, since you said that the plan, if approved, is a sign at each entrance?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we do have proposed locations up here on the PowerPoint.
Just couldn't see it.
The one driveway is directly across from Airline, and then the other driveway is much closer to the, I guess, Oliver, or Sure,
Kubota.
Sure.
Kubota.
Yeah.
And monument sign heights are, I'm sure that could be found in the code, but are of what height?
I don't know if I can read the.
I can't read it.
And signage is also set back 10 foot from the property line. So there is a maximum sign height that is, I believe, 35
I believe it's 35 feet.
feet, but these monument signs are nowhere near
Okay, all
that
right.
maximum. And so that's not a variance request. It looks like it's going to be about a little under 6 feet.
Okay, and as far as any questions regarding to traffic maintenance, would that be at another time?
Yes, this is just for the,
Okay, just specific to signs?
for the signage, yeah, as far as traffic impact or anything. I guess we could talk to the MPO or Public Works, although there's no requirements for any sort of traffic impact analysis or anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. If no one else wishes to speak on this subject, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any further discussion from the commissioners?
I have a question.
Okay.
Are we saying that this property will never have an exit or entrance from Vine Street?
I won't, as far as an entrance and exit, right now, that's not planned. Never is a long time. There is some barriers in that there's only a limited amount where you can actually provide access in the back because of the north outfall, or the outfall drainage ditch over there. The other component is that back parking lot is a secured perimeter for police vehicles. And so it would have to be, if they were going to access that back area, they would continue to have, it wouldn't be public access because they would be accessing the secured parking lot. That's where the police vehicles will all be behind locked gates. So it is a possibility in the future, but I don't believe that there will ever be a public need for signage back there because if there is a future driveway, it would be accessing only the secured private parking area.
I was gonna say that for security purposes or things, you look at any station, it's like that, where you have the entrance in the front. I'm just excited. When is the initial groundbreaking for?
So we're, Commissioners, my name's Derek Farrell. I'm the Assistant City Manager that's in charge of this project for staff. We are looking at late January, early February for groundbreaking. It's a construction manager at risk project, so we'll be bringing a guaranteed maximum price to council in December.
I'm excited. Anyway, I'm a fan of it, and I believe it's needed here. And hopefully that'll help bring more police and, to the area and stuff. So I'm actually excited about this move.
How long?
May I ask a sidebar question?
You sure can.
Derek, since you're here and present yourself,
Sure.
is there being consideration about the traffic jam that will ensue for traffic going to St. Joe's on Hiller Street?
So we haven't anticipated a traffic jam largely because of time of day differences. And then, our municipal court dockets at the moment haven't created traffic jams in downtown with Nazareth Academy being right next door. So
Hope you're right.
I do too.
I do too, because I live right there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Most of the people that go to this facility will be our public safety personnel. So they're going at shift changes, which are, 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. kind of thing. And so the schools are different time of day.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Again, I
Brown.
think, I agree with you, it's a great thing.
It is.
And so, do I hear a motion to approve this variance?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Mendoza to approve the variance, a second by Ms. Rebecca. Oh, Ms. Haley. Sorry about that.
No worries.
That's my
You can give it to her, I don't
All
care.
those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Variance pass.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
That's my fault, Mr. Mojo. Sorry about that.
All right. Our next item is, the third item is a variance request for the bail bonds hotline of Texas. May I have the staff report, please?
So our third item on the agenda is a variance request for bail bond hotline of Texas located at 101 North Moody Street. Jesse Carmona is the property owner and Mark Thomas is the agent and tenant of 101 North Moody Street. So the subject property is a multi-tenant commercial building located at 101 and 103 North Moody Street. Bail bond hotline of Texas is the tenant currently at 101 North Moody Street. 103 Moody Street is currently vacant with no businesses operating out of it. The tenant is applying for a variance to section 5-149A1, B, and C, which pretty much, to sum up, states that the combined area for all wall, roof, canopy, and projecting signs on a building shall not exceed 30% of the area of the front of the building. In multi-tenant buildings on a single lot, the wall sign area allowed for each tenant space shall not exceed 30% of each tenant's wall area on which signs are mounted. The current signage on the building and tenant space at 101 North Moody exceeds the allowable 30% area for wall signage. Now, our ordinance defines a sign as any object, device, display, or part thereof visible from a public street used to advertise a business, product, service, or activity. So by this definition, a sign is not solely defined as displaying a business name, but rather anything calling attention to the business. Signage laws are based on regulating size, material, location, or anything regarding the form of the sign. Signs should not be read for content to be regulated. And we relayed U.S. Supreme Court case Reed versus Town of Gilbert and U.S. Supreme Court case City of Austin versus Reagan National Advertising of Austin, LLC, which states a sign code must be content neutral, meaning all signs should be regulated based on the same requirements. Now, Bail Bond Hotline of Texas wishes to place an 8-foot by 12-foot sign along the wall of their building facing West Constitution Street, in addition to keeping all other wall signage currently on the building. 101 North Moody Street, 30% allowable is approximately 53 square feet. The combined wall and roof signage currently is approximately 81 square feet. So the current signage is approximately over by 28 square feet currently. The tenant is now proposing to add an additional 96 square feet of signage, proposing to exceed the allowable signage by 124 square feet. There is also a blank freestanding sign currently on site allowed under the sign code. So Bail Bond Hotline of Texas is requesting a variance to allow for the approval of a sign permit to erect a wall sign on the facade of the building exceeding the 30% allowable area for combined wall signage. Staff recommends denial of the variance request to allow for the approval of a sign permit to allow for additional wall signage on the facade of the building. Staff has determined that the sign is intended to attract attention to the business, making it a sign to be regulated by the sign ordinance. The sign does not meet the intended purpose of the sign ordinance to prevent signage from creating confusion, unsightliness, or visual obscurity. Staff has also determined that it would be detrimental to the neighboring tenant of the building from developing and being able to apply for their own sign permit, as it would be denied based on exceeding the maximum allowable signage. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna open up, you want public hearing first. You want a question?
Yeah, I want to question him.
All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and open up for a public hearing, and then we'll have further discussion. So we'll now open up to a public hearing. Anyone wishes to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. And please limit yourself to 3 minutes. And also state your name and address, please.
May not be able to do the 3 minutes, but we'll see how it goes. Mark Temez, I'm the owner of Bail Bond Hotline of Texas. Good evening, everybody. First of all, I'd like to address that I'm not calling this, I've never called this a sign. whoever looked at my application, there's no rule, mural ordinance in the city of Victoria. And the only way that you can actually put something on a wall is to go onto the sign ordinance, which I'm not calling this a sign. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a disabled vet. I serve my country. This mural has nothing to do with my bail bond company. It's a freedom of my speech. And I have case law as well that says that I have the right to put up freedom of speech of what I want to put up. It has nothing to do with my bail bond business. As far as the overage, they're going off of old numbers. And the new numbers, which I have here, Mr. Cremona has leased me more property. I'm fixing to expand. 103 is not occupied anymore. I'm taking over 103. When Mr. Cremona actually retires, I'm going to be taking over the building anyway. The square footage now is different. I am still over 8.95 square feet, which Mr. Cremona has already agreed. He said, if you want 10 more feet, take 10 more feet, whatever you want to make sure you're under your 30%. But still, I'm not calling it a sign. I'm just addressing the signs that are here now. So now that takes care of that problem, because their numbers, again, are different than mine, and we'll show that. What I want to say is the sign that they showed up there, that I want to put up there, has nothing to do with my bail bond company. And I'm open to any questions that y'all have for me.
So you telling me that you got the whole building now? Do you have the whole building now?
No, sir.
So what?
Mr. Cremona is still there, but I've taken over a part of the front of his building. And that's in my new lease. And if you see where the red is, you see where the end of where it says in the front, it says bail bond hotline, there's a flagpole right there that's going up in the sky. Well, there's a little up. Well, all of that is where the original measurement was. Well, all that red, I put a brand new window there and I leased that space. And now I'm going actually to the end of the window to where my new business is going to be expanding my bail bond business. So I'm going to have plenty of room. I'm not worried about the signage that's up, the two signs that they're speaking of now. It'll be plenty of room for the 30%. But again, the sign that I'm asking to be put up, the mural that I'm asking to be put up there is not a sign. I actually had an artist that we were going to have a drawing put on there that I spoke to the city about. And the artist suggested, because of the age of the building and the texture, that he would go over there and I would spend $8,500 to have this mural put on the side of the building in reference to my fellow veterans, brothers and sisters, that the building would chip off and it would be worthless. So we decided to put it on an aluminum, 3 sheets of aluminum, and then install it on the side of the building under there, under the big sign, as the picture shows. So that's where the mural was going to be, that we had discussed to put it at. But again, the city of Victoria does not have a mural ordinance like most cities do. There's the only thing that I ever found that was in there was Laurent mural that y'all approved to have some stuff done under there. But again, not only myself, but artists and everybody else are really looking at this to see, that we're classifying this under sign ordinance, but it's not a sign. We have no other choice because there's nowhere else to apply. So I had to pay not only the $190, but another $100, not sure what that was for, $290 to come up here to fight to say that this is not a sign, it's a mural.
All right.
That's where I'm at.
All right. Thank you for your
Sorry,
comments. Yes.
I was gonna say, thank you for your service too, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I do.
Yes, sir. Oh, let's see. Okay, I'll go ahead and, looks like no one else would like to speak on this subject. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Any further discussion or question from the commissioners?
Yes. So the gentleman, again, thank you for your service as one Marine and combat veteran myself, and disabled vet, I understand. Before you got up, I had a question, and I wanted to ask, and maybe Esquire could ask, but he mentioned it, and I didn't even know what he was gonna say, but I was gonna ask, where did Muriel's fall under? Because we did the dealing with the cases of dealing with signs and things, but when you deal with a mural, you know, man, it's a painting, and so how does that follow or construe? And I would like to hear, I mean, the explanation for that, if you are able to.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we do not have a mural ordinance at the moment, so we consider murals on businesses or buildings under our sign ordinance. That's the simplest answer.
And just FYI, I know, you know, we've been talking about the UDO. I'm going to give y'all an update. In the draft UDO, there is a public art component that would pull out murals and allow, right now, I haven't seen the exact draft language from our consultant, but it would be a separate approval process. It still would require an approval process, and it wouldn't be, but it would be an approval process to say that that mural is not a sign, it is public art. But in this case, and until that UDO passes, all murals are painted on signs. They're basically painted on wall signs. So a good example, Love You to Peaches in downtown, even though some say that's a mural, it's painted on the building. It got a sign permit, met the sign code. We have the men rappelling off the Alcog building, got a sign permit, meets the sign code. So it's really about the size requirements. That's what we regulate. Not what it says, although this does say veteran-owned, so it does lead you to think about being a business, but that would be if you read it. It is strictly about the square footage, so if he has additional numbers or different numbers, then, and we're looking at a difference of 8 square feet, maybe some other part of the signage could be reduced on, or it could be reduced by 8 feet, and we can issue a permit tomorrow if we have those numbers.
One, is it okay if you put the mural, that picture back up of the mural, sir? So my statement is, in listening into it, so is it in writing in the ordinance that murals, and forgive me, it's a tie tongue for me, that it falls under the signage, or is that is in writing on the ordinance?
So our ordinance doesn't say anything about murals. It just says that anything attracting attention to a business in any method, it's very broad, is a sign.
And then the reason why I make that, and I'm sorry, one more thing, Mr. Brown. The reason why I make that statement is because when we look at the picture, it is one where it's not promoting the business itself. And so for me, you know, I'm big on articulation of the letter of what we're saying. If it was in the ordinance, I'm totally agree with the ordinance state, because that was the ordinance. But if it seems like it's a discretionary thing and it's not implemented permanent of what it is, and now whenever the new ordinance come out, I understand, because it's in writing now and it's stated. But right now, it feels like it's discretionary. I guess that's the best way I say.
It was written with the intent to
Yeah,
capture.
I don't believe that that's entirely correct. It's not discretionary. We do treat all mural art, wall art, as you're describing it, as signs across the board. So it's not that the department is picking and choosing which wall art, so to speak, whether you want to call it a mural, whatever you want to call it, which ones apply and which one, they treat that the same across the board.
So my statement again, and Esquire, is that does in the ordinance, does it mention wall art? Does it mention the word
ordinance
mural?
is for signs.
So it just mentions signs, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
David,
I'm curious about something Julie said. I think I heard you say that if you paint your building red, it's a sign?
No, I believe the sign ordinance is probably broad enough that it's kind of getting to Dr. Hunt. You all could really interpret it that way, but we have interpreted it to anything that is not actually part of the building. So a building has windows and, you know, lights and paint and a roof, and if it's part of the building, it's not a sign. It's when you add attention in an awning can be a sign, roof sign, painting graphics on a building is a sign, and that's where we regulate how it's attached to the building, the size, the location, but not what it says.
I see a lot goes into it. Thank you.
Sign ordinances are fun.
Yeah. I actually was on that committee. But I do have a question. So you're saying that, let's pretend like he's actually painting it. And you just said that that you can paint a building, but if you paint the building in such a manner as to attract attention, at that point it becomes a sign.
Yes.
And red doesn't do that.
No.
And that's where the gray area is, because like if
for me
I paint
too.
a building, and I guess being a marketing professor, if I paint a building lime green, it's gonna cause attention. So if I paint it lime green, would that be considered a sign because it's drawing attention to my business?
And does
And
it
I think
take part of
that's
that,
the area.
you know, the percentage that you talked about? So does this red, is that counted as a percentage? Is that, I'm just confused.
Well, I think it would be painting it to attract attention, so any kind of graphic. I mean, paint is still part of a building. You have to
Sure.
have paint
Yeah.
on a building. But when you add graphics to attract attention for your business, I think that's the wording they were going
And
for on
so
that.
we're left again with interpretation,
Yeah.
you see? And that's the issue, the interpretation, because it's the gray area. If I paint on my wall, right? And then if we look at the specification of what the ordinance is saying, that if it's promoting your business, well, when you look at this is not promoting business, it's promoting a veteran, you know what I mean? And now you can say, now you do see veteran-owned, that's one specific thing that you can look at and say, okay, well, yeah, that can be a component. I'm just putting it out there, you know what I'm saying, for
No,
clarity on
we've
what.
been very consistent. I mean, I think the men rappelling off of the Alpec building is a perfect example of, it doesn't really speak to any use that's in the building, but it was very much treated as a sign and received a sign permit. It was an allowable square footage. And, you know, if there's additional numbers, and we're, you know, it's 8 square feet, we might be able to reduce it for 8 by 8 square feet, this or other signage on the building, and we can get you a permit tomorrow.
Yeah, well,
Because it is
that's what
strictly about the square footage.
I'd like to say.
Not the content.
Yeah, I heard something, maybe we're talking, this sounds like there's some new things came up since this all, because it sounds like you got some more square footage, or you, see, because my thought is, well, let's take some signs down, whatever, if you know, because I support the veterans, but I support the city ordinance too until it gets changed. So if you're telling me, and I'm just me talking, if you have more information to give to to our planning department, that we may be talking about a moot point, because you're within the ordinance. So I don't know that.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to understand.
And again, and I apologize, because there is, me and Mr. Kimono came to an agreement after all this, because
Okay.
I have unlimited space. That's not going to come into the issue. But the issue is this, there's 2 issues.
Okay,
Is y'all are saying that I'm over, I'm not worried about that. I have plenty of space to cover that. But the mural, y'all are trying to put all that into the sign part, and that has nothing to do with the sign. It's not a sign. Y'all can call it all you want, but you're telling me that I went over there and a Navy medic staying with my Marines, and y'all are telling me that I cannot put that sign up for my brothers and sisters? That's where I'm having an issue. It's not a sign for them to say, oh, come and use my bail bond company. Has nothing to do with that. I man the suicide hotline for veterans. I do all kind of stuff for veterans. It has nothing to do with that. But that's my right to put that up there on my building. That's what I feel, that is my right. Has nothing to do with my bail bond business. I have other businesses. I don't have signs on them. I just choose to do it because when they come over that hill, coming down from Victoria, they come into Victoria, they're going to see that sign right there. And that's why I want it up there.
all right.
Because they may come and take a picture of it. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. But I want them to know that we appreciate it. We appreciate what they did. And that's not the only thing that I do for my fellow brothers and sisters. That's what I want to say.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something. If I'm hearing correctly, the data that's presented here in this variance has changed now, back to your point. And whether we call it a sign or a mural, it looks like this may all work out with the new information that's Mr. Thomas has brought, as far as the allowable or the required square footage type thing. But it's, to me, as the variance is presented here to us, that was submitted, that's different than what you're saying, you got new stuff,
Yes.
okay? So I don't think we can vote. Yeah,
We can still vote on it. And she had a statement though.
I do, I would like to see the front of the building, and there's a picture that has the front. Okay, and so the way I see this is the bail bond hotline sign in the front of the building is partially not in use. So if in conjunction with the additional footage, this sign was repaired, which I perceive to be more of a problem, having a sign in this state of repair than having a mural on the wall. If this sign were repaired to be the appropriate size for the words that are used, and the additional square footage were taken into consideration, both of those in conjunction, perhaps he would meet the requirement.
So for me, my understanding, the argument is not about, with him, is not about the sign of repair. It's about the mural being compared, to be a sign. I actually have a question, and this is my thing that I throw off, maybe I'm being angel's advocate. But my thing is, when I read the word veteran-owned, what is that specifically talking about?
Well, the part on there, veteran-owned, veteran-proud, is just something that we always say, everybody, things that we do. But if that bothers y'all, then I'll just take that off of there.
But, and my reason why I asked that is, can you see how unreasonable means someone, when you see veteran-owned, they would equate that to dealing with the business that is attached to?
I completely understand, Mr. Hunt. And again, if that's bothersome, and now that you brought that up, I do understand that, and I can have that removed. I don't want to, but I will, to make everybody happy.
I think that one possible solution at the moment might be if y'all would like to table this item so that you don't have to vote on it. You can table it to the next meeting or sometime in the future and allow staff to have the time, so that you don't have to say yes or no right now. If there is new information, as has been indicated, allow staff a chance to gather that information from the
Where I'm at.
yeah, so I think that's kind of where y'all are leaning right now, and you can do that.
Especially as we're getting into, reading the sign, which is what we don't do.
Yeah.
First of all,
it's all about the size requirements.
we're
So
not
if
the
we can get it-
policymakers
Yeah.
here,
Right.
just so you know that.
I understand that.
We don't,
And
I got the ordinance here, I read it.
And I have the same one, sir, and I completely understand that, but
So
I was
that's where
just.
we're at.
I know exactly where you're going with that, and I understand that. The only thing that I would like to do is, will you show the other picture, the front? Please.
I know.
If you see that where the red ends,
Yeah.
that red, when I finish doing what me and Mr. Kimona are doing, is gonna be all the way to the end. And I don't even know, I'm not even including the mural into the square footage. I'm talking about they're saying I'm over so many feet right now, which will give me plenty of feet. He said, just take the whole front, because Mr. Kimona has this sign, a little tiny sign on the side, which is, his is like a 3 by whatever. I would have plenty of room, but you know what? I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to really, to be honest, the road I'm going down, I think maybe at this point, somehow, some way, there may be an ordinance that blossoms out of here for murals and for artists. I don't know. Maybe that would help out the city. But right now, with our issue right now, is the square footage.
So-
And that's what I'll take care of.
So, you want me to move to table it?
Well, that's what I was, yeah, somebody,
Okay.
do I have any,
I'll move to table the motion until the next meeting.
And I'll
Okay.
second.
okay, so we have a move to table this item till the next meeting by Ms. Staley, and a second by Ms. Rebecca Spears. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. This variance is tabled until the next meeting, till y'all get some more,
Thank you
Maybe
for
some
your
clarity
time.
there.
Thank you so much.
a little bit more clarity. All right. Now, next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have two items on the consent agenda, which are the meeting minutes and the final plat for the Sandoval subdivision. Any motions or actions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve and a second by Mr. Brown. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes. Next item is other business, monthly development.
So within the month of September 2023, the City of Victoria processed a total of 147 permits, as well as a total of 183 overall combined MEP permits. Whereas last year in September 2022, the City of Victoria processed 133 permits, as well as 184 overall combined MEP permits. Within the month of September 2023, the City of Victoria collected approximately $80,700 in permit fees, whereas last year in September 2022, the City of Victoria collected approximately $48,500 in permit fees. So we did have an increase from last year to this year. Also, within the month of September 2023, last month, the Development Services Department processed 3 minor plats, 1 major plat, 3 site plans, and City Council action approved 2 variances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Julie, you have a UDO update?
Yes, so this last update, well, not really. At the end of the week, the consultant should be providing us with the public draft, which then I will send to you all, builders in town, engineers in town, city council, everyone, and we'll hopefully take a chance to read it and go through it. At either the next meeting or we're going to have a special planning commission meeting, maybe at the end of November. I will have a PowerPoint that will actually go through the entire ordinance and discuss changes, significant changes, not just minor, little things, but the significant changes. And then we'll be asking you to make a recommendation to council to approve the ordinance at the special meeting at the end of November. And then it is planned to go to council for consideration at the first meeting in December, final approval, because ordinances take 3 readings, so second and third reading at the second meeting in December with an effective date of January 1st. So I know we've been talking about this a long time, and there's a lot of changes that are not really substantial changes, but will benefit our staff greatly. There's a lot of procedures and policies that I always use, this is a perfect example, is an example of the shake-off area. So we have a stormwater prevention pollution master plan that says businesses cannot drag gravel and whatnot into the streets. So internally, when we review site plans for lay-down yards that have gravel, we require them to install a 100 by 100 shake-off area attached to the driveway so that the trucks can go through that on site and shake off the gravel. So, but that's not codified in the parking ordinance or in the laydown or loading ordinance of our current development ordinance. It's the rulemaking for that is in a stormwater prevention master plan. And so when I say there's a lot of changes to the ordinance that make it explicit, policies and things that we have been implementing for a very long time that won't be a surprise to anyone, but are now being explicitly stated in the development ordinance to make it a lot easier for out-of-town developers, people that don't continually do business with us, to know and not be surprised when they get a red line site plan back that says, you have to put a shake-off area. So with that, I'm going to kind of go over this last section that we've been tackling. This is from the steering committee meeting we had earlier this week. And so you have an idea. But like I said, by the end of the week, we should have the draft delivered. So this weekend will be very busy for me to read through and make sure it's ready. And hopefully we'll have that published and blasted out to everybody to read and digest and be able to ask questions on at the beginning of next week.
400 pages?
not quite that much, I don't think. I haven't counted them. It's about that thick front and back, so it's not too substantially larger than our current ordinances. We have, of course, procedures is, again, a section that's going to have a lot of changes because, there's a lot of internal procedures in how we process applications, but it's not written in the ordinance. The ordinance is very vague, and we're going to keep some vagueness when it's appropriate, and we'll have fees in our chapter 24, not in this UDO. So it's sometimes appropriate to have some flexibility, but timeframes that align with state law, since on plats that have changed greatly over the last 30 years since our current ordinance is in place will now be reflected in procedures. So a lot of things that we're doing will be actually written and codified. And then discuss some changes in development standards, and then just a few other changes. So you can see we are in the home stretch. A lot of the code is going to be very similar, and I will be going having meetings with the developers, builders, you all, and definitely make sure that everybody knows what those changes are and go through each section of. I won't be line by line, but it will definitely be, for example, our single-family residential lot size is going from 6,000 square feet to 5,000 square feet. So it'll just be a presentation of bullet points that highlight what those changes are. This is more for the subcommittee. The working draft that they have is filled with errors. So the public draft that's getting published next week will not have all of those errors. So one change that we discussed with the subcommittee is private utilities. Right now, the ordinance is very silent on a lot of private utilities, but one change is currently within a subdivision, electric must be underground, but perimeter lines do not have to be buried. With the new ordinance, perimeter lines to a subdivision will have to be buried if they're not existing, if you are installing lines to the subdivision. If you're taking power off of existing utilities, then they don't have to be, just again, buried within your subdivision. But if you're having to extend perimeter lines, then those lines also have to be underground. And that's really for resiliency. How many of us went weeks without power after Hurricane Harvey? The more we can get underground means the less people are out with power when we have those sorts of natural disasters. And then, of course, there's an exemption for transmission lines.
Ms. Julie, and maybe it's late in the evening. So even, let's say that I want to put a she shed up, that would fall under making sure that the lines, any.
Well, that's already in the ordinance. Okay. So we're talking about for the big subdivision, the actual perimeter lines. Within a subdivision and commercial, that's already has to be underground.
She shed wouldn't be for me.
Yeah.
We also have this license to encroach mechanism that is already in place. Whenever you're seeing a lot, we use it a lot in downtown, you see some of those new projecting signs that go up, or if someone replaces an awning, or if they have to have an exit door that swings outward into the sidewalk and the right-of-way, we have a license to encroach form that people fill out and gets approved. This is just codifying it and letting people know, hey, we do have this process. And when when a business wants to, say they're planning a nightclub in downtown and they don't know that that we have this license to encroach, then they may do a lot of unnecessary planning to not have, a exit door, emergency exit only door, swing out or something, not knowing that we have this mechanism in place. So we're putting that into the ordinance. Again, the procedures, we are not really changing the administrative, how we actually process plats, because we comply with the state law shot clock very well. We're I'm going to brag on us. I think we're one of the best cities in the entire state. We always hold to that 30 days. We never have things, administratively. And in fact, the only time I think we've had something administratively approved because we missed the 30 days, it was very intentional because we had to cancel a meeting. It was, I think, the March 2020 Planning Commission meeting for COVID. And so we said, well, they can't approve, they can't meet, so they can't approve the plat. We'll just acknowledge that we missed the deadline and therefore your plat was approved. So it was even then a very intentional time. The only time we actually did miss the deadline. But we are making sure that all those procedures that we currently do that need to be written in the ordinance are going to be written in the ordinance. So the procedure section will look very briefed up compared to what our current ordinance is, because our current ordinance procedures really highlights variances and notification, and it doesn't really talk a lot about like how you make an application or anything. It's very silent on a lot of those things. So we have these procedures established, and we're going to write what needs to be written into code. One big change on the procedures, which I think I'm going the wrong way. I don't know how to get back.
It's over.
I don't know.
Good job. That was a great meeting.
I'm so sorry. Okay, well, the one big procedure that I did want to highlight is some of our authority is being taken under the zoning chapter, although we are not adopting a zoning map or zoning changes, but the creation of neighborhood conservation districts, which I'll talk about in some of the things, does come under that authority. And so with that state law, it says that when you make an amendment to your ordinance, we have to notify, and it will come to planning commission. So now sometimes if we make a small amendment, it just goes to it just goes straight to city council. But with this new procedure, the planning commission will be publishing in the paper, and then the planning commission will be seeing every text amendment to this chapter moving forward. So are we back to where I'm supposed to be? Yes, that was text amendment. And then on annexation, we are, this is a substantial change. So we are requiring that if you are developing outside of the city limits and are requesting city utilities, that request has to follow with a request for annexation. So both of those requests for utilities and requests for annexation come at the same time. And at that time, city council could say, yes, we'll give you utilities, but no, we're not going to annex you. Yes, we will give you utilities and annex you. You know, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to receive utilities or require that we're actually going to annex you, but those requests have to come so that we can make sure that there's the orderly development of land, which is, of course, the whole point of all of our UDO. So site plan submittal is a perfect example of where we don't have it actually codified. We do have this flow chart that we use. So they're taking this flow chart that we've used for 20 plus years and actually writing it into the ordinance so that any developer can pull it up, look at it, and know what process to follow. So a lot of our changes are like that, and those are the changes I'm not going to highlight. The changes I'm going to highlight are if you're requesting utilities, you also have to request annexation, you know, the actual substantial changes. If it's a process we've already been doing for a long time and it's just being written out, I won't take everyone's time to go through those whenever we actually get into the meat of what it looks like. One big substantial change too that I want you to be aware of before you see the draft is the creation of conservation districts and historic districts. So council was we had a council workshop, and they were very clear on the direction on both of these that they'll only be petition based, so a conservation district is really kind of more like what our historic districts are now. It would be, say a neighborhood wants to apply to become a conservation district. The rules of that conservation district would be tailored to that neighborhood, so that would have to be part of the application process. Say maybe you can't have mother-in-law suites, or maybe no dipping our toe into zoning, no home-based businesses or no commercial in that neighborhood. But it is going to require a supermajority petition of that neighborhood. And then what those rules are. So this will create the enabling legislation to allow neighborhoods to request that in the future. And then the same with historic districts. So the enabling rules that do not say that city council can initiate those. City council will not be able to initiate those. It will be a petition-based with 2/3 of the properties that want to be in that.
Almost sound like zoning.
It is. It's kind of.
Like
It's really geared for neighborhoods, for neighborhood protection and conservation, so that you don't have encroachment of, to protect what neighborhoods have.
It's a good thing.
Right, and so, but it is going to be petition based. So we'll see how many neighborhoods, get their neighbors together and can cooperate, because it is a supermajority that will be required. So we'll see. Then, of course, the procedures will have all of these subdivision plat procedures, relief procedures, which is variances, documenting any administrative approval processes, and then, like I said, that development of the neighborhood conservation district process, which is that kind of enabling legislation, says how does a neighborhood apply to become that. So really, on all of these, there's very, very minor, except for that conservation district. Of course, that's not minor, that's brand new. Very different. So just kind of also FYI for y'all, Celeste and I primarily, but we also had help with Tyler and David and our engineering staff and Rick and a lot of our building staff, spent 2 days locked into a conference room with our consultants and went through the ordinance line by line, word for word, and wordsmithed it and discussed. So that's why we're waiting on this public draft document. We're really looking to see the fruit of those labors, so to speak. And so that's what we're waiting for at the end of this week. We'll take time to this weekend to review it and make sure that everything that we discussed in that very fun 2 days made it in there, and there doesn't need to be any other changes. So that's why I'm fingers crossed. I'm very hopeful that this draft will be out and ready for public consumption next week. So this last bit is the summary of the changes that they did since the last time the subcommittee had seen the draft. The Chapter 20 driveways, we are changing driveways to be based off of the type of roadway instead of the use. So you want greater separation on a primary arterial like Navarro rather than a local street where driveways being bedded up next to each other is not a safety concern like it is on a higher volume, higher speed roadway. The foundation permits right now, we have a provision that states slab on grade foundations have to be 30 inches above the gutter to prevent flooding, where we've had some issues over the last several years, especially with yellow homes overbuilding those foundations and causing drainage issues. And so we'll have a maximum of 42 inches, and that's only for the slab on grades. Pier and beams would not be held to that standard. The draft of the parking ratios had it like 4 per 1,000 square feet, and we wanted to make everything 1-to-1, like a 1 space per 250 square feet. So easier to do the math for us, and it's not as big of a change, but we have reduced a lot of the parking requirements, especially for commercial. Now, that's not going to really, I think, make a big difference because those big box stores have a market standard that they hold themselves to that already exceeds what our current ordinance says. So, like I said, I don't think that it'll make a huge difference, but it might help some of the mom and pops around town. We talked about the historic and conservation districts. And then our subdivision regulation amendments are really more technical aspects that we're kind of already doing, but making sure we're very specific. It's not just a policy that we have to share with folks coming into town to develop, that it's all laid out. So they really don't need to call us, although they're more than welcome to call us, and we would, of course, prefer it because it's always easier to be able to guide people through our development process. But we do want to make sure that everything that we have out there is as user-friendly as possible, which is the whole goal of completely rewriting our ordinance. So, as I said, our next steps is the draft refinement. We'll have a public open house. We were thinking of having a special planning commission meeting on November 30th with the open house before. So tentatively schedule that. I will definitely get real dates on your calendar and a real schedule and real process. I haven't really finalized dates yet because I don't have the draft for the public yet. So waiting to have that on hand to then go and approach, the builders and the engineers.
And this one would be kind of done like how we did at the, when we had to hold at the community center, the big open round.
We haven't set the format yet, but I assume that it would be have to be a larger place than here, although maybe not, because the public doesn't really get excited about development codes. It's the users of the development code that are really excited, and we've had a lot of conversations with, the engineers and the, maybe some realtors might be interested, builders. I think that those are the folks that we want to make sure know what's going on, they're happy with the changes. And there might be some that they're not happy with, because we are, strengthening some rules in some places, but we're relaxing them in others, so I'm hoping that the trade-off is there.
I don't remember, did you guys address ADUs in this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then, as I mentioned, we already have the adoption process outlined with, we need to get it to council for the 2 meetings in December. So however, to make that happen, I have to backtrack. And we'd like an effective date of January 1st so that it's a very clear cut. New year, new rules, although if I had to guess, about 80% of the ordinance really isn't changing. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So you're going to be ready for the bicentennial year then?
Yes.
And you said there's a mural section in here.
Yes.
Did I understand
No,
that correctly?
So yes, so chapter 5 of the signs is being moved into this chapter. Our actual sign ordinance didn't change a lot, but we are adding a public art component because there is a lot of requests for murals, but you can't regulate design. And so how other cities have chosen, a lot of other cities have chosen to regulate murals is through design districts, which are our historic preservation districts, which are zoning districts, but we don't have zoning districts. So the way the legislature says you can design, regulate something like signs and content is, through a public art definition, defining murals as public art. And then we haven't quite figured the process yet, but ultimately I think City Council will have approval on if a mural application is public art and if they're going to approve it or not.
Sounds a lot like library books.
Yes.
But, I want to say this. I am so thankful. I'm gracious to you guys for the time and the effort, those that participated in doing something that we know is needed. And it takes people like me where it keeps my mouth closed because it's in there because you can read it, and you'll know, okay, this is, and so I believe it because the more we put in it, the less questions or the less argument that you can have against it because it's there and it's been approved. And so I'm really just thankful from you and Ms. Julie and Celeste and all the staff and everything that's put in it because we know the work that you do. And so we're really thankful for the work that you do.
Well, we really try and just create regulations that have a why behind them. If we can't adequately describe why, then maybe it's something we don't need to be bothering with. So there was a lot of discussion of why is it like this and in getting these rules in place. And
It was a good example of that, and it's thankful.
And I echo Dr. Hunt's comments.
Thank you. So, and I expect everyone to get their coffee and start
And read
reading it as soon as that.
I read them. I read them from back to front. So, and sleep and wake up and read it again.
Yeah. Thank y'all.
All right, thank you. Okay, any items from the commissioners? No items from the commissioners?
James is.
All right, if that's, being that, I'll go ahead and, seeing no other business, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 6:20. Y'all have a good day.